Step into the shadowed corridors of 1950 cinema with 1957's The Cyclops, a bold, low-budget sci-fi ride that fuses pulsing monster movie menace with mind-bending questions about science, power, and the price of curiosity, where a towering single-eyed behemoth stalks a remote space barrier, and a crew of scientists must decide how far they'll go to unlock the universe's darkest secrets. Sit back while we dive into the film's campy charm and practical effects that still spark awe, and the surprising ideas that were kickstarted into a wave of era-defining sci-fi twists, all while tracing how a singular daring concept became a cult classic worth revisiting. If you crave retro thrills, imaginative ambition, and a story that makes you think long after the credits roll, then let's get into the Legacy of the Cyclops. Greetings everyone, Mike here with Sci-Fi and More, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome to our Team Sci-Fi family, where nostalgic positivity reigns supreme. The Cyclops. Now, this film is generally considered enjoyable for fans of classic 1950s B-movie science fiction. And what fans seem to enjoy is the fun creature feature energy with that pulpy atomic age monster vibe, a memorable monster design with the giant one-eyed mutant as the main attraction, a short runtime, and that classic campy appeal. So, if you like low-budget vintage sci-fi, it fits the bill. But before we begin, I wanted to thank longtime subscriber at Gaposaurus for this fantastic suggestion. Love that name.
Oh, I just love a good old-fashioned campy sci-fi horror B-movie.
The Cyclops is a 1957 American science fiction horror film written, produced, and directed by Burt I. Gordon, and starring James Craig, Lon Chaney Jr., and Gloria Talbot. Utilizing the theme of a monster created as a result of radioactivity was a common one in the 1950s. Gordon had originally sold the distribution rights to RKO Studios, which planned to release the film in 1956 on a double bill with Hammer's X the Unknown. However, RKO fell into some financial disarray, and the film rights went to Allied Artists, who released The Cyclops in 1957. But more on that later in the video. The Cyclops wastes no time getting to the good stuff. The story begins with Susan Winter, whose boyfriend, test pilot Bruce Barton, disappeared years earlier after crashing somewhere in the remote jungles of Mexico. Refusing to give up on him, Susan joins a small research party made up of scientist Russ Bradford, mining expert Marty Melville, and pilot Lee Brand, and together they fly deep into the dangerous, unmapped territory. But what they find is far worse than a wrecked plane. Hidden in an isolated valley saturated with radioactive uranium deposits, the group stumbles into a nightmare landscape where ordinary animals have mutated into gigantic killers. A mouse, an eagle, a spider, an iguana, a lizard, even a boa constrictor. Everything in this place has become bigger, deadlier, and wildly unnatural. But the film's real shock comes when they finally find Bruce Barton. He's still alive, but only technically. Radiation has transformed him into a towering 25-foot-tall, one-eyed monster, the Cyclops. Though horribly disfigured, there are still hints of the man he used to be, especially in the way he seems to recognize Susan. That tragic thread gives the movie a little more emotional weight, just as the monster chaos kicks into high gear. From there, it becomes a desperate fight for survival. Barton kills Marty. The valley closes in around the survivors, and when the Cyclops tries to stop their escape, Bradford blinds him in his single eye, bringing the creature down for good. It's a simple premise, but it delivers exactly what a 1950s creature feature promises. Radiation, giant animals, jungle peril, and a tragic monster at the center of it all. Burt I. Gordon's The Cyclops arrived just weeks after the premiere of another one of his films, Beginning of the End, in 1957. But despite its release that same summer, The Cyclops had actually been produced much earlier, not long after Gordon's first science fiction feature, King Dinosaur, around mid-1955. Now, as we mentioned at the beginning of the video, originally the film was intended to be released by RKO as part of a double bill with the British sci-fi thriller X the Unknown. But during production, RKO's film division was falling apart under Howard Hughes' management, leaving Gordon to finish the movie on a shoestring budget of roughly $71,500 with only 5 days of location shooting. By the time the film was ready for release, RKO had largely shifted its focus away from theatrical films and more towards television and radio. In the end, Gordon secured distribution through Allied Artists, which released The Cyclops as a double feature with Daughter of Dr. Jekyll, another film starring Gloria Talbot. RKO's involvement helps explain how Gordon, still largely unknown in 1955, managed to assemble a cast with some recognizable names for such a low-budget monster film. While Lon Chaney Jr. is the only cast member likely to be widely remembered today, 1950s audiences would have also recognized James Craig and Tom Drake, both of whom had enjoyed modest stardom in MGM films during the 1940s. Gloria Talbot, meanwhile, already had a decade of film and television experience, but mostly in supporting roles. For the Cyclops voice, Gordon hired famed voice actor Paul Frees, reportedly paying him $5,000. Presumably, Gordon hoped to give the creature more character. But the expense seems wasted, since the Cyclops only grunts and roars. Sounds actor Duncan Parkin, who played the Cyclops, likely could have handled for himself. Fun fact, Parkin, who had no prior acting experience, later said he landed the role simply because makeup artist Jack Young knew his parents. See? Sometimes it's all about who you know. When the financing collapsed for the production of the Cyclops, Burt I. Gordon pushed ahead independently, working feverishly under intense pressure as he raced to finish the film before the budget ran out, with only 5 days set aside for shooting. And just to add an additional wrinkle to the production challenges, production was made even more difficult by Lon Chaney Jr.'s frequent, let's say, love of adult beverages. You know, can't blame him for that. We all have our demons. Duncan Parkin, who played the Cyclops Peter Barton, later appeared in a similar role as Colonel Glenn Manning in War of the Colossal Beasts in 1958, the sequel to The Amazing Colossal Man from 1957, essentially portraying another very similar disfigured giant. The special effects in the Cyclops were simple and limited, relying on back-screen projection, basic matte work, and oversized images integrated into the scenes. These techniques are often obvious, especially in the moment where Barton grabs Susan Winter, accidentally pulling part of the background with her and exposing the black space behind it. Even the discovery of test pilot Barton's crashed aircraft looks a little patchwork together and inconsistent, with mismatched debris including a light plane wing, a P-51 Mustang canopy, and a radial engine scattered together. But despite these technical shortcomings, the film's makeup effects are strikingly effective. Jack Young's work on Duncan Parkin creates a grotesque and memorable monster. Not realistic, but unsettling enough to leave a strong impression. the melted-looking left side of Parkin's face and lipless black gash of the mouth and the huge bulbous eye on the right combined to give the Cyclops a distinctly nightmarish appearance. The script itself by Burt Gordon is fairly straightforward, and in my opinion, it seems like it's kind of a combination of H.G. Wells' The Food of the Gods, the 1925 film adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World, and the Greek myth of Odysseus and the Cyclops Polyphemus. So, did the Cyclops revolutionize or bring anything new to the sci-fi horror genre? I'm going to go with a yes on that one, although modestly. The Cyclops did not revolutionize science fiction, but it contributed a memorable variation on a familiar 1950s theme. Radiation created mutation. Its most notable addition was the image of the humanoid, one-eyed mutant itself, which gave the film a distinct monster and helped it stand out among many low-budget atomic age creature features. What the film lacked in technical polish, it partially made up for with atmosphere and makeup design. The creature's grotesque appearance, especially its distorted face with an oversized single eye, gave audiences a striking visual that was more unsettling than many of its contemporaries. In that sense, the film added a unique monster to the era's growing catalog of radiation horrors, even if its story and special effects followed well-worn genre conventions. Operating on a budget of $71,500, the Cyclops only brought in $68,000 at the box office. So, not the best. Additionally, the Cyclops did not spawn any official sequels, novels, or comic book adaptations. It appears to have remained a standalone movie. However, despite that, fun fact, a clip of the Cyclops was later used as part of the original opening sequence of WPIX Channel 11, New York's Chiller Theater back in the 1960s. So that's something. Even at just 66 minutes, the Cyclops packs in plenty of pulpy 1950s sci-fi charm, delivering giant monsters, radioactive weirdness, and that irresistible drive-in movie energy without ever overstaying its welcome. So, if you have just over an hour on a rainy Saturday, dust it off and enjoy. It's a brisk blast of vintage creature feature fun that gets in and leaves you exactly the kind of delightful, eerie B-movie memories fans of classic sci-fi horror love to revisit.
Did you know that in the UK the movie was edited down to 65 minutes? I mean, what minute did they cut?
And there you have it, Cosmic Core. We hope you have enjoyed our retrospective on the 1957 film The Cyclops. And if you did, please be sure to like, share the video, and be sure to hype the video. That really helps the channel out. And since you're here, stick around for a while and check out some of our other videos and consider subscribing to the channel if this kind of stuff is right up your alley, so we can continue our sci-fi journey together as a team. Again, I would like to thank @Gaposaurus for this fantastic suggestion. Still love that name. And thank you to all of you that have supported the channel by buying us a coffee. That is genuinely appreciated. Guys, thank you so much for your continued support. You guys are literally the greatest sci-fi team on YouTube, and we will see you all in the next one. Have a great galactic day, everyone.